These two juniors are used to getting out onto the footy field. Today it was keeping an eye on some even younger players. But Owen Craigie and Brett Camorley were having trouble concentrating. They've just had a dream come true, selected to play for Australia.
I just got a shock when they announced the side, you know. It's a great feeling. So that's what I always wanted to do, just represent my country. It's a great honour.
Owen is a centre who plays in the Knights SG ball team, originally from Tinga near Inverell. At 16, he's one of the youngest selected in the schoolboys team. If he retains his good form, he could have 3 years in the side.
Age doesn't worry me.
18-year-old Brett Camorley, a halfback, was sporting a few stitches from a game last week. He plays reserve grade with the Knights. His next step to play first grade for Newcastle.
I'm not for a few years yet. Looks like Johnson's got it wrapped up now.
The schoolboys play the Kiwis in Parks later this month. Meanwhile, the Knights believe there will be plenty of seats available for Sunday's clash at Marathon Stadium. It's expected around 15,000 tickets will be available at the gate. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
If big is best, then this 5 tonnes of chrome alloy is nearly perfect. It's the largest heavy media cyclone in the world, the coal industry's equivalent to a giant washing machine.
It separates the saleable coal from the unsaleable ash. It cleans it up so that it's acceptable fuel for a power station, or it's acceptable for coking coal in the manufacture of steel, or any other use that you have for coal.
It's been developed by Mining Component Services in Cardiff to meet the coal industry's demands. The increase in size improves efficiency, which can mean tens of thousands of dollars in savings for mines that wash millions of tonnes of coal a year.
This way you have one pump, one cyclone and no bias. And the benefits of that, of course, are normally a better yield.
This $35,000 prototype is destined for the Warkworth mine at Mount Thorley in the Hunter Valley, but the company is already looking beyond local markets.
We have interest in the United States and South Africa already. Oh, there's no doubt that they're interested overseas. You see, Australia leads the world in coal preparation. We don't trail anybody in this game.
Richard O'Leary, NBN News. Tetron Engineering started as a small company by reconditioning motorbikes in 1947. It's since grown to occupy a whole street in Islington, employing 100 people. The new kid on the block is NS Komatsu, which will sell its earth-moving, mining and construction equipment from the Islington site. In return, the Japanese company has given Tetron Engineering sole rights to service Komatsu machinery in northern New South Wales. This will boost Tetron's turnover by 20% and create 12 jobs, with more in the future.
Jobs, yes. We've already put a couple of new men on, and hopefully when things pick up we'll be putting more men on, yes.
It's a historic deal between Australia's largest privately owned engineering firm and Komatsu, which is owned by the world's biggest steel firm, Nippon Steel, as it's the first time the Japanese company has agreed to this type of arrangement. Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
It was a callous attack on a defenceless pensioner. Norma Chambers was awoken from her bed at Mount Hutton near Newcastle soon after midnight yesterday. Two masked teenagers, one believed to be just 13, threatened the amputee with an iron bar, then escaped with $40 and a credit card. The boys had forced Mrs. Chambers to pass on her PIN number. Bank records have shown the card was used at the nearby Westpac at Cardiff.
About 1:30 a.m. Wednesday morning, there were a number of withdrawals from that lady's account. The card has been thrown away and we've taken possession of the card.
Police working on the investigation have been shocked by the attack. They're keen to follow any leads. Detective Peter Doyle has asked for anyone who may have been near the bank to contact Charlestown Police.
If there's been anyone, whether they be cab drivers, garbage collectors, whatever, anybody who may have been around the Westpac Bank at Cardiff about 1:30 Wednesday morning, if they saw anything, even if they think it's unimportant, please give us a ring.
Peter Ryan, NBN News.
In the last 2 weeks, there have been 2 serious attacks on elderly Hunter residents. Last week, 94-year-old Kathleen Kelly was tied up and her Wallsend home ransacked. And just 2 days ago, 69-year-old Norma Chambers of Mount Hutton had her home broken into and $40 stolen. It follows a spate of recent thefts, which has seen at least 6 aged people tricked into handing over their life savings. One man lost $12,000.
They're in a position where they're frightened to go out from their homes.
Community outrage has prompted police to act. They've launched a campaign to encourage groups like Neighbourhood Watch to become more actively involved in protecting the elderly.
We are encouraging people to get in contact with their local police stations and they will in turn put them in contact with Neighbourhood Watch coordinators in their area. Then we can get that network working once again because we really are looking for support from the Neighbourhood Watch people.
These citizens at risk forms are available from police and neighbourhood groups. They'll give police a better idea of the number of aged people living in the area and who is most vulnerable. Officers will also speak to senior citizens groups, explaining how to improve house and personal safety. While pensioner groups have welcomed the move, they believe that unless the courts impose tougher penalties on young offenders, cowardly crimes like this will continue to occur.
What we've got to have is more confidence in the system in relation to the courts and the magistrates. And until we get that, I feel that a lot of these things that we try to do won't proceed much further than what they are at the moment. The people who are being victimised are getting no justice at all.
Jodie McKay, NBN News.
New South Wales and Queensland went into the clash, the only 2 teams having gone through the rounds of the national titles undefeated. And the game proved a close tussle, both sides displaying total commitment in defence. The teams were locked at 0-0 until well into the second half, but it wasn't through a lack of trying. The Blues kept Maroons goalie Joanna Butland busy on several occasions. Queensland too had its share of attempts. 30 seconds from the final whistle, it scored. Queensland wrapped up the game 1-0, also registering wins Tasmania and the ACT, while Western Australia and Victoria drew. For their efforts of finishing on top of the ladder at the completion of the round robin, Queensland wins the Association Trophy. They also have the chance of taking the national title when they play New South Wales in the final tomorrow. Catherine Lamond, NBN News.
16-year-old Shane Green was injured during a reserve-grade rugby league match between Old Bar and Laurieton in May this year. The promising footballer, who played hooker, became a quadriplegic when he was trapped in a scrum. Last night, Shane's local community on the mid-north coast held a benefit night for him at North Haven Bowling Club. Former Australian players Ray Price, Brett Kenny and Steve Ella were guest auctioneers. A State of Origin jersey autographed by the New South Wales side fetched a cool $800. It's hoped the event will raise $20,000 for Shane.
Of the state's best wave skiers braved the chilly conditions off Catherine Hill Bay for the fourth round of the state series. That's well down on the 70 wave skiers who entered only 2 years ago, but the future of the sport looks sound, with a record number of juniors entered. None better than Newcastle's 19-year-old Nick Boone, who's ranked the third best junior in the world. Boone has surfed his way to third in the State Open Series with rides like this, but no one matched series leader Rhys Duncan Jr., who surfed his way to another win. Neil Bates in his Celica GT4 was aiming for a perfect round after winning all 7 stages yesterday. With Newcastle's Michael Guest out of the race, it was up to Queenslander Stuart Reid and his Celica to try and haul the leader in. But as dust started to turn into mud, Bates extended the 62-second lead he'd inherited from the day before. Brett Middleton's Daihatsu nearly drowned in the slosh, but he still managed to finish in 8th place. Nobody had an answer to the Bates Celica. The reigning Australian champ won every stage to win by nearly 4 minutes. The win elevates Bates to 550 points at the halfway mark of the series, equal leader with Guest. Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
Some people are calling it supermarket heaven. Newcastle rated as the cheapest city in Australia to buy brand name products, the second cheapest for those with generic labels.
People should be rolling in the aisles, as we've said, in Newcastle with happiness.
Choice magazine surveyed 149 supermarkets around Australia, including 80 products. The survey found you can save at least $5 a week shopping at the cheapest chain, up to $30 a week buying the cheapest products. Franklin's at Jesmond has the cheapest brand name goods, Woolworths at Garden City the lowest priced basket of groceries. Newcastle and Adelaide are the 2 cheapest cities, with Launceston, Hobart and Darwin rated as the most expensive. So why are Novocastrians getting such a good deal?
Competition obviously comes into play, and Newcastle consumers obviously demand prices, and those prices seem to be given by the supermarket owners.
Peter Ryan, NBN News.
Police are trying to improve their image and communication links with the public. To achieve this, a series of television ads promoting community-based policing were launched. While feedback on these has been encouraging, the force is now trying another tact. Over the next few days, 2.2 million letters will be delivered to every household in the state.
We're letting the people know that we are sincere about working towards overcoming their community policing problems, and that we are available for their concerns when they are occurring.
The aim is to portray our men and women in blue as friendly and approachable. The campaign is the result of a year-long survey involving 2,500 people across the state. It revealed that less than half of those surveyed thought the police were doing a good job at informing the community about their law enforcement activities. A similar proportion of people questioned also expressed concern about the availability of police to discuss local issues.
There was an awareness, and I think this program is working towards overcoming that problem.
But Chief Inspector Ebrel believes solving local problems and making neighbourhoods a safer place in which to live requires the community taking responsibility also.
We need to hear from members of the community on a timely basis about their concerns and any suspect criminal activity.
It seems initially the invitation has been welcomed.
It's not always the first thought that if something odd's happening in the neighbourhood, you don't necessarily think, I'll ring the police. And so it's really refreshing to have the police come and say, we want to talk to you and we want to know what's going on.
Catherine Lamond, NBN News.
This was just one of a number of demonstrations held across the country. Protesters targeted the Boral woodchip terminal on Kooragang Island in Newcastle.
What Boral and other large companies, multinational companies, are doing is woodchipping our native forests, which are a natural resource which is quickly dwindling. We have very little native forest left.
The Wilderness Society wants to see an end to the destruction of native forests.
It's important for a whole range of reasons, such as water catchment, air quality, things that impinge on everybody's life.
The Wilderness Society says there is an alternative to logging native forests.
The main alternative is softwood plantation timber, of which we have almost 300,000 hectares in New South Wales alone. It actually provides better quality wood chips.
Protesters called on the Minister for Resources, David Beddall, to cancel Boral's licence to log native trees on the North Coast. A spokesperson for the minister says no decision will be made regarding the company's licence until the government receives the results of an environmental impact statement. That should be at the end of September. Jane Anderson, NBN News.
Matthew Punton appeared in Wallsend Court this afternoon, charged with maliciously setting fire to Toronto High School over the weekend. It's alleged he was walking through the school grounds at around 4:15 Sunday morning when he noticed an open window. He entered the building known as D Block and set alight a floor mat. Within seconds, the room was engulfed in fire. According to police, a security officer who'd responded to an alarm chased Punton and allegedly found a lighter in his possession. After extensive questioning, Punton was charged last night with a blaze which destroyed 15 general classrooms as well as art, science, music, computer and staff rooms. Punton allegedly told police he only wanted to damage one classroom, but the fire had got out of control. He also told police he has no grievance against anyone at the school. Tendered in court was Punton's previous record. At the age of 15, he was cautioned for breaking into the same school. Around 900 students, including those studying for their HSC, have had their education seriously disrupted by the fire. In court, police prosecutor Sergeant Murray Alder described the blaze as an act of treachery against students and the school, which will be an enormous cost to the taxpayer. He asked that bail be refused. During his brief appearance in court, Punton sat in the dock crying with his head in his hands. Magistrate Brown set bail at $50,000 and ordered that Punton report to police daily and undergo a psychiatric assessment. He'll reappear in court next month. Jodie McKay, NBN News.
A hangover isn't the only repercussion of a hearty drink at the local. There's also the rubbish left behind. People in the Hunter go through 40,000 tonnes of beer and wine bottles a year, which is an environmental disaster or a great opportunity. ACI Glass Packaging has launched a campaign to get more clubs, pubs and restaurants to recycle. 4 out of 5 establishments already do, but that still leaves 20% of empties being thrown out.
Well, it means it goes to landfill, which is pretty precious these days, and also it can become litter, and we don't want to see glass in those places. It can be recycled 100% and an infinite number of times, so there's no reason for it to be in those places.
The bins of glass are set to overflow, with more people drinking wine and also beer that only comes in bottles. But establishments like Club Phoenix in Mayfield are helping to make every bottle green. The club started to sort and store its bottles for collection only a month ago and is already saving money and space and the environment.
We're obviously just beginning on it, and we're into glass at the moment. Perhaps we turn to other products at a later date.
Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
Several years ago, the Newcastle Harness Club set about making the local facility one of the best. The track is rated in the top 5 in the country. Soon the club will have a first-class grandstand to match.
We want to make Newcastle the second biggest club in the state behind Harold Park, and we've put a 4-year plan to the Minister and to the Harness Racing Authority, and our plan is to race every Saturday night of the year.
The club is on course to achieving this, adding extra races to its calendar each year. This season, which kicks off on Saturday night, the club will host 35 meetings, up by 4 on the previous year.
The Hunter Valley is in the top 2 or 3 areas of harness racing in the country. We've got that many trainers up here, that many horses. Each week we regularly ballot out 100 horses, which is virtually a full meeting.
Financially, things are looking favourable for the club. On and off course betting is up by 30%, tipping the $500,000 mark last season. As well, a record 100,000 people went through the turnstiles. Ross Gigg believes these figures could double with the new grandstand online.
Sport these days is a business, and people want quality, they want comfort, they want a bit of style. They want to come in and be able to get out of the weather, they want to be able to sit down if they can, have a meal.
The stand is due to be opened in late September. It'll feature several restaurants and bars, betting facilities, function rooms and seating for 1,100 people. Catherine Lamond, NBN News.
All I got to say to that is...
10, 11 and 12. That'll be nice. You can see on television. Dark Brook's working.
I just lost hope when I was told I had cancer, and then they just inspired me to fight the battle, and I won.
The show's return so soon after its hunter season in 1989 is due in part to the $10 million refurbishing of the Civic in Newcastle and the fact that people here are going to the theatre more.
Andrew Lloyd Webber saw it in Hong Kong and said, look, you're crazy not to bring it back to Australia. And when we did our figures, we found that there was a huge audience here in Newcastle, actually double what it was 5 years ago.
Cats will run for 3 weeks from the 10th of September with a new, younger cast, including the spine-tingling Sylvie Palladino in the role of Grisabelle with That Song.
We basically set ourselves the challenge of meeting the standard of the original Australian company in 1985. So we wanted people who were very young, very fresh and stars of tomorrow, and that's what we've got.
And promoter James Thane has no qualms about serving up cats exactly the same as last time, beginning in Brisbane and going on to Sydney from here.
People want to see it, and there's something timeless about Cats. I mean, I think Cats will go on being done for the next 50 years, if not longer. It's timeless.
While memories of the January bushfires remain strong in the minds of hunter people, news of a training facility for the heroes who fought the inferno has been well received. Bob Kirkby from the BHP handed over a $20,000 cheque. The money will be used to set up a smoke training facility where personnel will be placed in dark, smoke-filled buildings, preparing them for the real thing.
Hopefully it'll be used not only in the Hunter region. As time goes by, I expect that we could get people from our Sydney brigades and from other regions want to come in and train.
The facility will be set up on BHP land between West Wallsend and Killingworth. About 30 drivers met behind closed doors with police at Broadmeadow. 1.5 hours later they emerged, police happy to be talking over any problems.
This is our second meeting over the last month, and it's been a successful meeting. We're going to have another meeting in another month's time and iron out a few problems that we're having with the industry.
The drivers have been accused of being too aggressive at accident scenes, competing with other tow operators for work. One driver said today there are too many bodies governing their industry, and he called for clear and definite regulations. At the meeting it was suggested roster systems be implemented and certain drivers work set zones within the city. The operators still want something to be done to clean up the industry.
Each year, more than 1.5 million people visit Newcastle and the Hunter region. Tourism is one of our major industries, but it's well behind our biggest money earners such as coal, steel, manufacturing and retailing. Newcastle Council wants to turn tourism into a business and has announced the formation of Newcastle Tourism Limited, a company consisting of 7 board members. The man heading the company is the city's new Tourism Development Manager, Barry Jones, the former General Manager of Western Australia's Tourism Commission. Mr Jones believes our airport will play a major role in boosting local tourism.
The fact that the airport has been improved means that we can bring in larger aircraft with more people on it. Also offers the opportunity of perhaps bringing in charter flights from overseas.
Mr Jones will also be working on improving our share of the lucrative convention trade, which saw $18 million injected into the local economy last year. Another area of focus is special events and the need to align the city with a specific event, just as Tamworth has with country music.
If Newcastle can build up maybe half a dozen events, special events that it owns, and sees as a long-term objective in encouraging people to come here for those events, then they'll be of great benefit in terms of creating jobs and other economic activity in this area.
Over the next few months, Newcastle's tourism company will be formulating a business plan which will be used to shape the future direction of the city's tourism initiatives. The emergence of the Hunter's tourism industry is also touched on in the Hunter Valley Research Foundation's latest regional yearbook. The book serves as a database of information on the region. One of the most significant developments, it notes, is the changing nature of employment, especially the marked increase in the number of people now working in the service sector.